Captain Alex Reynolds leaned back in the pilot's chair of the Orion's Sprint, watching the asteroid belt's chaotic dance through the viewport. Beside him, his first officer, Lisa, monitored the ship's cargo, a valuable load of rare minerals they had mined from the outer sectors. "Navigation looks clear, Captain. We should be on schedule for Earth rendezvous in 2 days," Lisa reported, her eyes not leaving the screens. "That's what I like to hear," Alex responded, a hint of relief in his voice. The solitude of space, vast and unforgiving, was something he had grown used to, but the return trips always felt the longest. Suddenly, the calm was shattered by a series of sharp beeps from the radar console. Lisa's calm demeanor flipped instantly to alert. "Captain, we've got incoming, fast and big. Looks like Skrillex signatures." "Damn, not now," Alex muttered, his hands flying over the controls, bringing up the defensive systems. "Can we outrun them?" "Not likely with this cargo load. We'll have to think fast," Lisa said, her voice tense as she scanned the data. Alex glanced at his crew through the open cockpit door. His engineer, Tom, caught his eye, a questioning look on his face. Alex gestured him over. "Tom, prep the engine for a quick maneuver. We're going to duck into the asteroid field. It might give us some cover," Alex instructed as Tom nodded and dashed off to comply. Turning to his communications officer, a young recruit named Darren, Alex snapped, "Send out a distress signal, encrypted to the Earth Defense Fleet. Tell them we've got Skrillex on our tail." "Yes, sir," Darren responded, his fingers already moving rapidly over the console. As the ship neared the asteroid field, the first blasts from the Skrillex ships shook the Orion's Sprint. Alex gripped the controls, weaving the ship through the massive rocks with practiced ease. Lisa kept her eyes on the sensors. "Incoming fire from the port side. 2 Skrillex fighters closing in." "Hold on!" Alex shouted, executing a sharp turn that sent a shudder through the ship. The maneuver bought them some time, but the Skrillex were relentless. In the engine room, Tom worked feverishly, rerouting power to the shields. "Come on, old girl, don't fail me now," he muttered to the ship, slapping the console as if to coax more speed from it. Back in the cockpit, Darren looked up from his station, worry etched on his face. "Captain, Earth defense is responding, but they're at least an hour out." "We don't have an hour," Alex said grimly, watching another volley of laser fire light up the space around them. "Lisa, get back to Darren and help him boost the signal. Maybe we can get some interference running." Lisa nodded, squeezing Alex's shoulder as she passed him to assist Darren. Together they worked to amplify the distress signal, hoping against hope it would pierce through the chaos. Alex steered the ship deeper into the asteroid field, each movement precise but fraught with risk. An asteroid, the size of a small city, loomed ahead, and Alex made a split-second decision. "Hang on," he called, piloting the ship into the shadow of the massive rock. The Skrillex, aggressive but less nimble, struggled to follow, their ships taking hits from the dense field. For a moment, there was silence on the bridge as the Orion's Sprint drifted in the asteroid's shadow. Alex let out a long breath, glancing back at his crew, their faces lit by the glow of their screens, determination and fear mixed in equal measure. "We're not out of this yet," Alex said, meeting each of their eyes. "But we'll make it. We have to." The crew nodded, turning back to their stations as the ship lurched forward, the game of cat and mouse with the Skrillex mercenaries continuing in the vast, unforgiving expanse of space. In the shadow of a colossal asteroid, the Orion's Sprint lay motionless, its hull scarred from the skirmish. Captain Alex Reynolds studied the radar intensely, the red blips signifying the Skrillex mercenaries inching closer, exploiting every possible angle of attack. Beside him, Lisa monitored the ship's failing systems, her face a mask of concentration. "Shields are down to 20%, Alex. We can't take another direct hit," she reported, her voice strained but calm. Alex nodded grimly. "We'll have to make our stand here. Prepare for boarding. I want everyone ready." He turned to Darren, who had been trying to boost their distress signal without much success. "Darren, cut the distress beacon. Save the power for life support and internal defenses. It's time to change tactics." Darren acknowledged with a quick nod, his youthful face set with determination as he rerouted the power. In the cramped quarters of the ship, the rest of the crew, a mix of seasoned officers and new recruits, gathered their makeshift weapons, anything from heavy wrenches to modified mining tools. Tom, the engineer, handed out protective gear and checked everyone's comms. "Stick together, follow the captain's lead, and keep your heads down," Tom barked, slipping into the role of a sergeant as he organized the crew into a defensive position near the cargo bay, the most likely entry point for the Skrillex. Meanwhile, Alex and Lisa huddled over the ship's schematic on a digital tablet. "If we can lure them into the engine room corridor here, Alex pointed. We have a chance. It's tight. And with the rigged charges from the mining gear, we could give them a surprise they won't forget. Lisa looked at the plan, then at Alex. It's risky. If they breach the cockpit or the life support system, we're done. It's riskier to sit and wait for them to pick us off, Alex countered. We fight on our terms. Agreement flashed in Lisa's eyes as she nodded. Let's set the trap. The ship remained silent and dark as the Skrillex mercenaries maneuvered their vessels for a boarding action. Their ships clamped onto the Orion Sprint's hull, the sound of cutting torches and breaching charges echoing through the metal corridors. Inside, the human crew waited in silence, their breaths shallow, their grips tight on their improvised weapons. Alex positioned himself just around the corner from the main entry point, his own weapon, a modified plasma cutter, ready. The first of the Skrillex burst through the sealed door, their armored bodies massive and menacing in the dim light. They paused, sensors scanning the seemingly empty cargo bay. Their hesitation was their downfall. Now, Alex shouted into the comms. From hidden panels and overhead compartments, the human crew unleashed their trap. Explosive charges detonated with deafening roars, sending shockwaves through the bay. Skrillex warriors were thrown back, disoriented and damaged by the shrapnel. As the smoke cleared, Alex led the charge, the crew following closely behind him, driving the stunned Skrillex back towards their breached entry point. Each human moved with desperate, fierce precision, knowing that the element of surprise was their greatest weapon. The skirmish was brutal and swift. Under Alex's lead, the crew managed to capture several of the Skrillex, including their commander, a hulking figure named Zarn, who surrendered after realizing the futility of his position. Breathing heavily, Alex stood over Zarn, his weapon pointed at the alien's head. "Why attack us? Who sent you?" he demanded, his voice echoing in the now silent cargo bay. Zarn's eyes, glowing faintly in the low light, met Alex's. "Human greed," he rasped, a hint of respect in his voice. "Your own kind betrayed you." With the enemy temporarily subdued and their leader captive, Alex knew this was only the beginning. There were more pieces to this puzzle, and he intended to put them together. But first, he needed to secure his ship and ensure the safety of his crew. The battle for survival was far from over, but for now, the Orion Sprint and her crew held the upper hand. The cargo bay of the Orion's Sprint was filled with the smell of scorched metal and the harsh breaths of its human defenders as they secured the remaining Skrillex mercenaries. Captain Alex Reynolds surveyed the scene, his crew bruised but unbroken, standing guard over the captured aliens. "Secure them in the storage lockers, and keep guards on duty at all times," Alex commanded, his voice carrying through the din as his crew complied. He turned to his first officer, Lisa, who was examining a digital pad with the ship's security layout. "We've got them for now, but we need to fortify," Lisa said, handing Alex the pad. "If they managed to send a distress signal before we jammed their comms, we could have more company soon." Alex nodded, taking the pad. "All right, let's use this time wisely. Repair what we can and set up more defensive positions. I don't want to be caught off guard again." As Tom and Darren began repairs on the ship's damaged systems, Alex approached the captured Skrillex commander, Zarn, who was restrained but calm, his eyes observant and calculating. "Why did you attack us, Zarn? What are you after?" Alex demanded, his tone firm but curious. Understanding the enemy's motives could give them an edge. Zarn's response was slow, his voice deep and resonant. "It is not personal, human. My crew and I are mercenaries. We were hired to intercept and claim the cargo you carry. Your presence was incidental." "Who hired you?" Alex pressed, the pieces of a larger puzzle beginning to take shape in his mind. Zarn chuckled, a low sound devoid of humor. "That is not how our contracts work. We do not disclose our employers. But know this, human. Your kind is not as unified as you might hope." This statement struck a chord with Alex, confirming some of his darkest suspicions. He stepped back, his mind racing with the implications of Zarn's words. Turning to Lisa, he spoke in a low voice. "Keep him here for now. Maybe he'll be more talkative later. Let's see what we can find out from their tech." Lisa nodded, signaling a couple of crew members to keep watch over Zarn. Meanwhile, Alex organized a small team to investigate the Skrillex ships attached to their hull. Careful to avoid any traps or remaining hostiles, they boarded the alien vessels. The technology was advanced, different from anything human engineers had developed. But Darren, who had a knack for alien tech, began to interface with their systems using a makeshift translation device. "Captain, you should see this," Darren called out after a few minutes of tense silence. He had accessed the mercenary ship's navigation data. Their last port of call was a station in the belt, owned by a conglomerate known for its cutthroat business tactics. Alex's eyes narrowed. Looks like we're not just fighting hired guns but corporate espionage as well. This goes deeper than a random pirate attack. Armed with this new information, Alex devised a daring plan. "We're going to use their ships against them," he announced to his crew. "We'll rig them to look like they're still operational. If their employers come to check on them, we'll have a surprise waiting." The crew set to work with renewed vigor, preparing for the next confrontation. They rigged the Skrillex ships with remote-operated explosives and prepared an ambush. Alex knew they were turning the tables, using the enemy's resources to fortify their own position. As night shifted into the deep black of space, the Orion's Sprint lay in wait, a wounded predator ready to strike. Alex watched the stars, aware that the next few hours could determine the fate of his ship and crew. Their small human vessel, seemingly insignificant in the vastness of space, was about to send a clear message to anyone who thought they could easily prey on humans. They had made a huge mistake. In the dimly lit confines of the makeshift brig aboard the Orion's Sprint, Captain Alex Reynolds stood across from Zarn, the captured Skrillex commander. The atmosphere was tense, charged with the silent acknowledgement of the stakes at hand. "Zarn, let's cut to the chase," Alex began, his voice even but firm. "You know we've taken control of your ships. You have no contact with your crew or whoever hired you. Cooperation might lighten your consequences." Zarn, bound but unbroken in spirit, met Alex's gaze with a cool, assessing look. "And why would I betray my employers? What assurances can a human give that would sway me?" Alex leaned closer, his expression serious. "How about the assurance that you're already in deep trouble and I'm your best chance out of it? We can protect you from whoever is coming to clean up the mess you're in now." Zarn's eyes flickered, a brief moment of uncertainty. Alex recognized this as a crack in the mercenaries' armor and pressed on. "Who are they, Zarn? Who's behind this?" After a moment of silence, Zarn sighed, a sound more of resignation than defeat. "A corporation, not from your Earth but with agents within it. They seek to control the mining sectors by eliminating competition. I am but a tool in their larger scheme." This revelation confirmed Alex's suspicions about the corporate warfare unfolding in the shadows of space commerce. "Do you have proof of this? Anything that can help us expose them?" Zarn nodded slowly. "In my ship's communication logs, you will find encoded transmissions. They will reveal enough." Alex turned to Lisa, who had been quietly observing from the doorway. "Get Darren up here. We need those logs decrypted as soon as possible." As Lisa hurried off to fetch Darren, Alex continued his interrogation. "Why the Orion Sprint? Why target us specifically?" "You carry a rare ore, unregistered but highly valuable. It was enough to mark you for interception," Zarn explained, his tone indicating the routine nature of such missions. Alex mulled over this information. The stakes were higher than just random piracy. It was a calculated move in a broader economic war. Soon, Darren arrived, equipped with his portable tech gear. He set to work on the communication logs, his fingers flying over the holographic interface. The room fell silent, the only sounds the hum of the ship and the distant clatter of the crew securing the vessel. After tense minutes, Darren looked up, triumph in his eyes. "Got something, Captain. It's big, direct orders from the corporation, and mentions of other targets." "Good work, Darren," Alex praised, then turned to Zarn. "Looks like you've just become more valuable, Zarn. Help us understand what we're dealing with, and we might just help you in return." Zarn considered this, his sharp eyes narrowing. "I will cooperate, but I seek asylum. Protection from those who no longer see me as useful." Alex nodded. "Agreed. For now, you'll stay under guard, but treated fairly." As Darren transmitted the decrypted data to Alex's tablet, the captain reviewed the evidence of corporate treachery with a growing sense of anger and resolve. They were now in possession of crucial intelligence that could shift the power dynamics in the mining sectors and beyond. "Prepare a secure message to Earth Command," Alex instructed Lisa. "They need to see this immediately." With their new ally in Zarn, albeit a cautious one, and armed with hard evidence, Alex and his crew were no longer just defenders, but active players in a complex web of interstellar intrigue. The game had changed, and the Orion Sprint was now at its center, ready to challenge the giants. Captain Alex Reynolds huddled with his senior officers in the dimly lit conference room aboard the Orion's Sprint. The air was thick with anticipation and the remnants of recycled oxygen, underscoring the gravity of their situation. "We've got the evidence we need, but it's no good to us if we don't live to deliver it," Alex stated firmly, looking around the table at Lisa, Tom, and Darren, who had become instrumental in their fight for survival. "The Skrillex mercenaries were just the first wave. We need to get out of this asteroid field and back to Earth." Lisa, her face lined with fatigue but eyes sharp, nodded. "The repairs on the engines are nearly complete, but we're still sitting ducks if they come back with more firepower. We need a distraction or a decoy." Tom, always the pragmatist, chimed in. "What about using one of the captured Skrillex ships? Rig it to explode on a delay. Make it look like we went down with it." Alex considered this, then turned to Darren. "Can you make that happen remotely? Set up a timer or something we can activate from here?" Darren's eyes lit up with a mix of excitement and nerves. "Yeah, Captain. I can rig their propulsion system to overload. It'll give off a big enough signature to look like a ship destruction. We can set it to trigger remotely." "Do it," Alex commanded. "Once that's ready, we'll use the explosion as cover to make a break for it. We'll need to navigate through the asteroid field on manual. It's risky, but it's our best shot at losing anyone tailing us." The crew got to work immediately, with Darren and Tom heading to the captured Skrillex ship to prepare the explosive decoy, while Lisa helped Alex plot a course through the asteroid field. The ship's sensors were pushed to their limits, mapping out a path of least resistance through the densely packed hazards. Meanwhile, in the brig, Alex confronted Zarn once more. "We're making our move to escape. I'm holding you to your word about cooperating. In return, I'll ensure your safety." Zarn nodded, the weight of his situation evident in his expression. "I understand, Captain. You have my cooperation." Hours passed as the crew worked tirelessly. Finally, Darren reported that the decoy was set and ready to be activated. "Give the word, Captain, and I'll light the fuse." Alex took his position at the helm, the rest of the crew strapped in around him. The tension was palpable as he gave the order. "Do it now, Darren." Moments later, a brilliant explosion lit up the sector behind them, a convincing end to the decoy Skrillex ship. On Alex's command, the Orion Sprint surged forward, its engines roaring back to life as they propelled through the asteroid field. The ship dodged and weaved through the rocks, a ballet of high-stakes piloting that demanded every bit of Alex and Lisa's combined skills. Behind them, sensors picked up the confusion from pursuing Skrillex ships, momentarily thrown off by the explosion. It seemed the decoy worked, giving them the precious lead they needed. As they cleared the asteroid field, the vastness of open space welcomed them, but so did the realization that they were not yet out of danger. The journey back to Earth would be long, and Alex knew that their adversaries wouldn't give up so easily. But for now, the Orion's Sprint sailed through the cosmos, a small beacon of hope against the sprawling, starry backdrop, carrying its crew and their critical evidence toward home. Alex allowed himself a brief moment of relief, glancing at his crew, their faces set with resolve and faint traces of optimism. "We're not clear yet, but well done, everyone. Let's bring this information home," he said, a sense of pride swelling in his chest for the bravery and ingenuity of his crew. The Orion's Sprint hurtled through space, the vast expanse of stars stretching endlessly before it. Captain Alex Reynolds kept a vigilant watch from the helm, the weight of their perilous journey evident in his focused gaze. "We're clear of the asteroid field, but I wouldn't count on being out of danger just yet," Alex murmured to Lisa, who was busy monitoring the ship's sensors for any signs of pursuit. "Radar's clear for now, Captain, but we should expect they'll track us soon enough. The Skrillex aren't known for giving up easily," Lisa replied, her eyes never leaving the screens. As if on cue, Darren's voice crackled over the comms from his station. "Got something, Captain. Multiple fast-moving signatures coming up from behind. Looks like they brought reinforcements." Alex clenched his jaw, his hands tightening on the controls. Time to see if this old girl's got any tricks left up her sleeve. "Darren, ready the ECMs. Let's make it harder for them to lock onto us." The ship shuddered as Darren activated the electronic countermeasures, scattering false signals and ghost images across the Skrillex scanners to confuse their targeting systems. Lisa plotted a zigzagging course, taking full advantage of the Orion Sprint's upgraded engines. "Hold on, this is going to get choppy," she warned, executing the first sharp turn that sent a ripple of force through the ship. The chase was on, a deadly game of cat and mouse through the void of space. The Skrillex ships, larger and more heavily armed but less agile, struggled to keep pace with the smaller, nimbler human ship. Tom reported from engineering, his voice tense over the intercom. "Engines are holding up, but we can't keep this up forever. We're burning through fuel at an alarming rate. We just need to buy enough time to get within range of Earth's defense grid, Alex responded, navigating another evasive maneuver that narrowly dodged an incoming barrage of energy fire from their pursuers. The chase led them near Jupiter, its massive swirling storm a backdrop to their desperate maneuvers. We can use Jupiter's gravitational pull, Alex suggested, a plan forming in his mind. It might just give us the edge we need. Lisa quickly recalculated their trajectory, aligning the ship to slingshot around the planet. It's risky, Captain. The gravitational forces could tear us apart if we're off by even a small margin. It's a risk we have to take, Alex decided firmly, setting their course. As they approached Jupiter, the ship felt the pull of its immense gravity, speeding them up dramatically and flinging them on a new path that shot them ahead of the Skrillex ships. The maneuver worked better than expected, creating distance between them and their pursuers, but the strain on the ship was evident. Alarms blared as the hull groaned under the stress. We've got some structural integrity issues, Tom reported, his voice strained as he worked to stabilize the systems. But she's holding together, Captain. Breathing a sigh of relief, Alex watched as Jupiter receded behind them, their course now set directly for Earth. Good work, everyone. Let's keep our fingers crossed and hope we've bought enough time. As Earth's blue orb began to grow larger in their view screen, the crew of the Orion Sprint prepared for the final leg of their journey, knowing that the real battle to expose the truth awaited them at home. Captain Alex Reynolds sat tensely at the helm of the Orion Sprint, his eyes locked on the distant glow of Earth as it slowly grew larger in the viewport. The chase through space had drained both the crew and the ship, but Alex knew that the real test was still to come. Lisa, status report? Alex asked, his voice calm but carrying an undercurrent of urgency. We're still being pursued, Captain. The Skrillex have regrouped and are gaining on us, Lisa responded, her fingers dancing across her console, updating their defensive measures. But we're within range of Earth's communication satellites. I can start broadcasting the evidence we gathered. Do it, Alex commanded, his gaze shifting briefly to Darren. And Darren, prepare the EMP. If they get too close, we'll give them a surprise. Darren nodded, adjusting the settings on the makeshift electromagnetic pulse device they had cobbled together. It wasn't much, but it could buy them the precious moments they needed to get their message out. As Lisa transmitted the stolen Skrillex communications and their proof of corporate espionage to Earth Command, Alex maneuvered the ship to optimize the signal's strength. The evidence they were sending could disrupt the power plays within the mining sectors and expose the corruption that had led to their dire situation. Transmission is live. Earth Command is receiving and decrypting now, Lisa reported, a trace of relief in her voice. Just then, the radar blipped a warning, and the ship shuddered under a new barrage of fire from the Skrillex ships closing in. They're not happy about us squawking, Darren quipped from his station, trying to lighten the mood. Ready the EMP, Alex ordered, his eyes narrowing as he plotted their next move. On my mark. As the Skrillex ships prepared another volley, Alex saw his chance. Now, Darren! Darren activated the EMP, and a wave of electromagnetic energy surged from the Orion Sprint. The pulse wasn't strong enough to disable the Skrillex ships completely, but it fried their targeting systems, causing their next attacks to go wide, and giving Alex and his crew a crucial edge. Nice shot, Darren, Tom cheered from engineering, where he was battling to keep the engines running. With the Skrillex momentarily disabled, Alex pushed the Orion Sprint to its limits, the Earth's gravitational pull now aiding their flight. They broke through the upper atmosphere, the heat of re-entry flaring around the ship as a fiery shield. As they descended toward Earth, Alex's communications panel lit up. This is Earth Defense Command. We've received your transmission, Orion Sprint. We're scrambling interceptors to your location. Hang tight, Captain Reynolds. The cavalry was coming, but Alex knew the battle wasn't over. They still had to land safely and ensure the evidence made it into the right hands. The ship groaned under the stress of re-entry, panels and systems blinking warnings at them from every direction. Almost there, Alex murmured, both to himself and his crew, as the blue sky of Earth enveloped them, the blackness of space giving way to the colors of home. With interceptors from Earth Defense visible on the horizon, coming to escort them the rest of the way, the crew of the Orion's Sprint allowed themselves a moment of cautious relief. Their mission was nearly complete, but the implications of their discoveries, and the enemies they had made, would resonate far beyond this flight. As they approached the landing coordinates provided by Earth Command, Alex prepared for a final maneuver. a testament to their resilience and the unyielding human spirit that had carried them through the stars back to safety. The Orion's Sprint touched down gently on the tarmac of a secure Earth Defense Command facility, flanked by interceptors that had escorted them through the final stretch of their harrowing journey home. The landing gear locked with a solid thunk, a sound that, to Captain Alex Reynolds and his crew, was sweeter than any melody. Alex was the first to disembark, stepping onto the concrete with a weary but determined stride. Lisa, Darren, and Tom followed, each visibly fatigued yet buoyed by the relief of being back on solid ground, under the protection of Earth's forces. They were met by a contingent of military officers and several high-ranking officials from the United Nations Space Authority, UNSA, who had been briefed en route about the crew's ordeal and the explosive evidence they had brought back. "Captain Reynolds, I'm General Carter," one of the officers introduced himself, extending a hand. "We've reviewed the preliminary data you sent. This goes deeper than we feared." Alex shook his hand firmly. "General, there's more to come. The full logs are secured in our data core. We need to ensure this information leads to actual accountability." General Carter nodded. "We'll ensure it does, Captain. The UNSA is already convening an emergency session to address this." As Alex and his crew were escorted to a debriefing room, a swarm of military analysts boarded the Orion Sprint to secure the remaining data and the Skrillex technology they had captured. Meanwhile, Zarn, under heavy guard, was also led away for a separate debriefing, his future uncertain, but his cooperation noted. Inside the debriefing room, Alex presented the detailed account of their mission, highlighting the attack by the Skrillex mercenaries, the evidence of corporate espionage, and the dangerous gambit they had played using the enemy's own ships against them. As the high-resolution screens displayed intercepted communications and corrupt dealings, the room's atmosphere grew heavy with the implications of the treachery. "The corporations involved will face charges ranging from corruption to acts of piracy under interstellar law," one of the UNSA officials declared, his voice grim. "Thanks to your bravery, we have the evidence to make these charges stick." Alex and his crew listened as plans were laid out for sweeping investigations and reforms aimed at preventing such conflicts from endangering lives and peace in space commerce again. In the following days, the media exploded with coverage of the scandal, dubbed the Asteroid Belt Conspiracy. Public opinion rallied behind Alex and his crew, their story becoming a symbol of integrity and courage in the face of corporate and interstellar corruption. As the trials began, involving numerous executives and their hired alien mercenaries, Alex and his crew were called to testify, their first-hand accounts pivotal in securing convictions. The trials were a spectacle, but they served as a necessary purge, cleaning up the darkest corners of human expansion into space. After the dust settled, Alex and his crew were honored in a public ceremony, receiving commendations for their bravery and service to humanity. The Orion Sprint was repaired and upgraded, its role in the events marked in the annals of space exploration history. As Alex stood at the podium, looking out at the sea of faces, some of which had once plotted against him, he felt a profound sense of duty and pride. They had turned a desperate struggle for survival into a catalyst for change. "Today, we stand as witnesses to the strength and resolve of those willing to fight for justice," Alex said in his address. "Let this be a reminder of our responsibility to guard the integrity of our endeavors beyond the stars." With the setting sun casting long shadows over the gathering, the crew of the Orion Sprint stood together, a tight-knit group bound by adversity and triumph. They had faced the dark side of human expansion into space and emerged victorious, forever changing the landscape of interstellar commerce and law enforcement. As the crowd applauded, Alex felt a quiet resolve settle in his heart. They had set out as miners and had returned as heroes, guardians of humanity's presence in the cosmos.